Hello folks and welcome to this stream. Good to have you along, and yeah, hopefully we'll have some fun this evening on this stream. If there's anybody watching, if you could let me know in the chat if you can hear me. I'd really appreciate some confirmation that you can hear me okay, and that sound is working fine. It looks okay my end, but yeah, hopefully it's okay for you as well. So this evening's stream is all about trying to help you understand what I take as a speaker to events and I'm prepared for when I attend these events. So I've been publicly speaking now for about 5 or 6, maybe 7 years now. And I have learned through some mishaps about what I should take and what I shouldn't take and how all of that works when I go to venues. And I want to try and share that with everybody and hopefully learn some things from you as well and answer your questions. So definitely put in your chat if you are have any questions and how you want some help with all of that. It'd be good to understand what your questions are. Thank you so much for letting me know that the sound's okay. Appreciate you joining. So yeah, let's get into this and show you what I pack in my bag when I go to events and present. So the first thing that I have is a laptop, obviously, and this helps me with the presenting. And I've got 2 laptops actually. I've got my work laptop, which is a Surface Laptop Studio. So I think that's got an i7 processor, 32 gig of RAM and 3 USB-C ports in the laptop. It's got no HDMI and it's got no USB-A ports. So that's something that I have to bear in mind. And as I'll talk to later on, I have a bunch of adapters that I carry to try and mitigate the fact that I've only got USB-C ports on that laptop. And that laptop's fantastic for presenting. It can handle PowerPoint, it can handle Internet Explorer or Edge nowadays for my demos, or Chrome or whatever I need to use. So it's pretty powerful in terms of that. It's a great laptop for presenting, but as I say, it definitely does need adapters when you go to conferences and venues, because not many, if any, places have USB-C adapters or cables for me to plug directly into a monitor or projector, whatever I'm using when I'm presenting. Now, the other laptop that I have, and this is my personal laptop, is a Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Gen 10. So yeah, this is again a really nice laptop that I have, and yeah, it's got a plethora of ports actually. So it's got USB-C, it's got USB-A, it's got an HDMI, it's got headphone jack as well. So it's got a plethora of options for me without adapter cables. So it gives me that functionality and that ability to use directly into HDMI projectors or monitors that I'm using. Now, I sometimes travel with both of these depending on where I'm going and what I'm doing. The Surface Laptop Studio is very heavy as a laptop and takes up quite a bit of room in a backpack if I'm travelling. So if I'm going to an event, say in London, I might just take that one laptop with me. And if it was a work event, I'd maybe just take that one laptop with me. You'll find a lot of speakers actually take 2 laptops with them at all times, and I've even seen speakers take a Windows laptop with them and a MacBook laptop, so that they've got that both capabilities of being able to switch operating system depending on whatever system they're actually presenting on. And if like a projector doesn't like a Windows laptop but really likes a MacBook, then that helps them as well. So yeah, it's like a kind of interesting concept to think about. But for me, if I'm traveling to say Glasgow or maybe Edinburgh, I will take both laptops with me because it's kind of local. I can deal with carrying that backpack with both of those laptops in my for that kind of short journey. But yeah, it's something to consider, something to think about. Potentially you might want to have two laptops or two devices to be able to present with you. Again, I've also seen people take maybe their iPad to be able to present using that. Not necessarily the same power as your laptop, although depending on your iPad that you've got, it might have the same power. So again, it's something to think about in case something goes wrong with your laptop or it doesn't automatically work nicely with the kind of system in the conference venue. Now, as important as my laptops are, there's sort of a plethora of cables that go inside my backpack with me. So the first one is actually an HDMI to HDMI cable that I take. Now, this is a 3-meter cable that I have. It's just off a Amazon Basics kind of cable that I've got. And this HDMI cable allows me the flexibility of maybe helping the venue plug into whatever it's got. I have turned up at venues where they have a massive TV screen, a 60, 70-inch TV screen, but they want me to use kind of Bluetooth or something like that built into my laptop and the TV to present, which I do not like doing. I do not like doing at all. I've seen so many systems go wrong, or the Wi-Fi gets overloaded because some of those kind of projection systems built into Windows are over Wi-Fi. And when the Wi-Fi gets overloaded, guess what is the first thing to break down? That connection from your laptop to that TV. So I love to be able to plug in to a TV. So I carry that HDMI to HDMI cable so that if the venue doesn't have one, I can use it. Because let's face it, most TVs, if not all TVs nowadays, have an HDMI connection in the back. So you can then plug in. The other use case of my HDMI to HDMI cable is I can actually use it when I'm practicing in a hotel room. So if I'm traveling to another country, if I'm traveling to, even just down to England, I can practice my presentation in the hotel room. So I can plug in the TV and my laptop to using the HDMI cable, and I can present almost in that same fashion that I would be as if I was in the venue. So that's fantastic use for that cable. It's also great if you're maybe traveling and you want to plug your iPad or your Android tablet into a TV and watch whatever streaming services that you've got ability to do if the TV doesn't have streaming services built into it. So that's got a dual purpose there for traveling. Also, the other cable I use is my power cable. Obviously, take the power adapters for you. With the with the Surface laptops, they have often a proprietary cable, that little long kind of power strip, that doesn't work with any other laptops that I'm aware of, or other laptops don't use either. So power cables are a must. With my Lenovo laptop, it actually charges off a USB-C adapter. So I can actually use maybe even like a phone charger or whatever. I've got ways around charging that if I forget it. But if I forget my Windows, my Surface laptop power cable, I'm often struggling to get a separate one. So that is something that you definitely 100% need to have. Now, as I said, my Surface Book has only USB-C ports in it, so I have no other way of being able to plug into something without that connection. So this is what I travel with, a Anker 5-in-1 hub. Now this is a fantastic device because it's got a USB-C port on the end. I plug into my laptop and I then have the ability to plug into an HDMI connection. I have the ability to plug in USB-A devices, and I've also got the ability to actually plug in an Ethernet cable on this. It's a fantastic kind of all-in-one device that I travel with. It's very small. It can, fit in my pocket if I need to, but it's got a place inside my backpack. And this is the one that I use if I'm traveling to another office with my laptop and I need to connect to a secondary monitor, plug in my mouse, that kind of thing. But it's also fantastic for presenting at conferences, because it's got that HDMI ability again to help me plug into something. And again, I can now use this with that HDMI cable that I travel with to be able to plug in to a TV or a projector or whatever I need to be able to do that. So this 5-in-1 hub, I don't think it was very expensive. I think it was potentially £20 to £30 off of Amazon. But yeah, it's great adaptability, great little device to have inside your backpack. So that's something that I travel with. The other thing that I also travel with is single or individual adapters. So I've got a USB-C to HDMI adapter, and I've also got a USB-C to VGA adapter. And this is because I have been to many venues and the 5-in-1 device does not work. The 5-in-1 device does not connect at all to the kind of systems that I'm working with, and I have to run around and find a technician for that venue to give me a single adapter, because that's the only thing that works with certain kind of systems. Now, I don't know if this is because there are different variations of HDMI. I think there's like HDMI 1.2, HDMI like 1.5, 2.1. Don't necessarily quote me on that, but I think there's versions of HDMI, much like there is with USB. You've got 3.0 and 2.0, and there's different connections there, and some things don't like it. So I found that having these individual adapters, which are potentially a little bit older than my Anker 5-in-1 hub, means that I can still connect in. And I have saved many a presenter's day by pulling out this single adapter, because the venue doesn't have enough. People have brought their 5-in-1 or 8-in-1 devices and they don't have that kind of single adapter. So I carry this because it has sometimes saved my life being able to present, and saved other people's lives being able to present at conferences as well. So it's worth having these as backup. It does add additional expense and they might never be used. If you're really lucky with your venue, they might never be used, but they are very, very handy. Now you might think, why have you got a VGA cable there, Sarah? But I have actually still went into offices and events where it's a VGA cable, or there's an option where it's HDMI or VGA to connect to the projector, and the HDMI doesn't work for whatever reason. It doesn't work, but VGA still works. So it's good to have those options, and it's good to have that flexibility to maybe help out people as well. So these come in my kit. I don't often bring them out because I said the 5-in-1 solves most of the problems for me, but it's good to have, and also a great backup if you need to help someone else, etc. Now, the other thing that I carry around is a Surface Pen. Now, this Surface Pen acts as my clicker because, believe it or not, if you depress the button at the end of the Surface Pen, it actually moves forward your slides. And I think if you hold it down, it actually takes your slides back the way. So it's a great device for using with my Surface laptop because it's got that touchscreen and I can use it to write things or draw things if I'm drawing architectural diagrams. So it's almost a 2-in-1 device for me. It helps me with drawing or writing on my screen or my laptop or annotating things, but it's also my presentation clicker. And it just connects using Bluetooth to my laptop, so I can actually connect it both to my Lenovo or my Surface, depending on what one I'm presenting from. And it's a kind of dual and one, as I said, kind of presentation clicker, and also it's quite handy to draw on it as well. So yeah, that's a fantastic tip. If you've got a Surface Pen, maybe you don't have a presentation clicker, you can use your Surface Pen with PowerPoint to move your slides forward or move your slides backwards as well, folks. So that's something to bear in mind. Now, all of my presentations, regardless of whether they're for conferences in my own spare time or whether they're for conferences or events in my work, I actually store them all in OneDrive. And that gives me the flexibility to be able to access my presentations regardless of what laptop I end up or device I end up actually presenting to. There has been cases where I've went to events and rather than actually plug in my own personal device, they want to use their device that's plugged in to their environment and it's plugged into their projector and it works and they know it works, and it's restricted access obviously as well. That's fantastic. However, that means that my presentation has to somehow get onto that device. And if the venue hasn't told me ahead of time and I haven't sent it across to them, or I haven't brought it on a old school USB kind of stick, having it on OneDrive means I have access to it. I have the ability to send them a link to be able to download it, or I have the ability to pull up OneDrive through a browser and then download that presentation. So whether you use OneDrive or whether you use like Google Drive or even iCloud, depending on who you are and what your kind of ecosystem is, being able to have your presentation somewhere else in the cloud is a fantastic thing to do. So I definitely encourage you. And it might sound a bit silly nowadays where most people do sync their, documents or photos to some kind of cloud device or cloud platform. I have seen some presenters turn up and their laptop doesn't work and they haven't saved their presentation anywhere else, and they have to go on stage cold with no presentation and no laptop because they haven't stored it somewhere in the cloud. So again, it's definitely something that you should think about and have an awareness of where that presentation is. And I think most of these kind of cloud solutions, so OneDrive and Google Drive definitely have it. You have the ability to make sure that the file or the folder or whatever you need it to be is on your device, regardless of whether you have Wi-Fi or not. So last thing I do before I log off and go to my event is make sure that that file is always available on my laptop, regardless of whether I have a Wi-Fi connection or not. Because again, that can save your life when you're presenting and you don't have access to Wi-Fi or kind of an Ethernet connection. As long as your presentation's there, you can kind of get through it. And hopefully you've kind of prepared demos, maybe a video of them for that event where you don't have Wi-Fi in the venue, because it does still happen, folks. It does still happen even in 2024. So there's lots of things to think about. Now, the last thing that I put inside my backpack is a selection of stickers. I think this was a great icebreaker many years ago for me, where I would tell people that I had stickers and they would come up before the session or they would come up afterwards the session and introduce themselves and lead themselves to having conversations and just be that icebreaker where we can have a chat and speak to each other. I'm not sure if stickers are still popular or not these days. People don't seem to want them as much. I've still got stickers on my laptop and I do still carry a few because it can be that great conversation breaker if you're a bit shy of speaking to someone, or if they vice versa are shy of speaking to you. So yeah, that's what I've got in my backpack. I've got my laptop, often two laptops. I've got my HDMI cable to HDMI cable, just because it's always good to have that backup. I've got my power cables, and I've got my adapters, both that 5-in-1 adapter that lets me connect to multiple devices. And then I've got my individual USB-C to HDMI and USB-C to VGA. As I mentioned, these adapters are mostly for my Surface laptop because it only has USB-C connections, whereas that Lenovo laptop that I also have has a direct HDMI cable. So yeah, that's something that I definitely have inside the bags. Just checking the questions here. Do I have a power bank for my laptop? Yes, not necessarily for my laptop, but I do carry two Anker power banks. I've got a smaller one and a bigger one. I can't remember the wattage or what version they are of it, but they're great for my mobile phone. Again, just charging it up if I don't have access to it. And because my Lenovo laptop charges through a USB-C cable, and so does my mobile phone, the cable and the power bank that I plug into my mobile phone could actually work for powering my laptop as well. The power banks I have probably won't give my laptop a full charge, but they'd give them enough trickle charge, hopefully, fingers crossed, to be able to get me through an actual presentation. But yeah, that's definitely something to think about. And I have often thought about getting a larger power bank that would actually give me a full charge on my laptop. But it's the weight ratio that I often end up fighting with, whether I want to carry two laptops and a big chunky power bank, plus all the cables and all the adapters as well. It's often that kind of issue that I have about what I need in my backpack and how much I'm willing to carry as well. So yeah, there's a lot to think about definitely for a speaker, and that's what's in my backpack. Maybe some other speakers have different things inside their backpack, but that's the core things that I've always found useful. And as I said at the start, I've been presenting now for about 6 or 7 years, excuse me, and I've done over 100 presentations, and I think probably about 60% of those have been in person. And the kit I've listed tonight, like the kit I've went through, actually helps me do a lot, and I've never, touch wood, had major issues with anything else. I see there's another question in the chat about mobile internet. So yeah, I actually carry 2 mobile phones. I've got a work device and I've got a personal mobile phone. I like to have that separation. Both of them have the ability for me to connect and share the internet connection that I have with my laptops. I have often actually paired my work phone with my work laptop to be able to get me through some connections if I'm working in a cafe and the cafe is not working, or in an airport and the airport Wi-Fi is too saturated. But as I said, when I'm often presenting, I have already thought about if I have no Wi-Fi, I've thought about my presentation, my PowerPoint slide point is downloaded and stored locally on my laptop. And if I have a demo, I have a video recording of it. I know lots of people don't like video demos, and that's a whole other topic that we can go into in another session potentially. And to be honest, I have went through in other sessions. But I always have a video of my presentation so that if I do not, of my demos, because if I do not have Wi-Fi, I can still show people this demo. Might not be the optimal experience, and we can argue over that. However, it gives me the ability to still carry out my presentation to my best abilities and what I have. So yeah, I think ahead, and if I don't have internet, if I don't have Wi-Fi, my presentation is stored locally on my laptop, and I have video recordings of the demo that I want to go through as a backup, or potentially that's what I'm going to use because the demo doesn't fit inside the timeline of my presentation. I don't travel with a travel router. I've never found the need. I have VPN on my work laptop, and I actually have a personal VPN subscription as well that helps me present that. So yeah, I don't tend to travel with a travel router. I've never found the use for it. And again, it's all about weight. I don't want the extra weight. I don't feel the need for it. I actually don't travel with a laser pointer because several friends have actually had uncomfortable experiences at airports because certain countries in Europe ban certain classes of lasers. I think Switzerland is the kind of issue that a lot of people have because they've banned laser pointers. So if you're going through airport security at Switzerland, I have had actually a few friends been arrested, unfortunately, and had to pay a fine because of travelling with a presentation clicker that has a laser pointer in it. So that's why I love my Surface Pen, because it doesn't have a laser pointer, but it's still a clicker for me to move through my presentations. So yeah, that's definitely something to watch out. There's lots of issues around laser pointers in different countries. Here in the UK, I don't think it's an issue travelling with one, but it definitely is in certain parts of Europe. And as I say, I've had friends, unfortunately, be arrested and have to pay a fine because they've travelled unsuspectingly to that country with a laser pointer in their presentation clicker. So that's definitely one to have a think about. In terms of a mouse, I do carry a mouse around with me. It's just one of the little Surface kind of clicky ones that lies flat and switches off when you click it. But that's not something I tend to use when I'm presenting. Again, I make use of that laptop and make sure that there's minimum things that kind of go wrong. I don't necessarily need a mouse to do my presentations. I should be using mostly the clicker to move the slides across once it's all set up. And again, if I'm doing a demo, it's very minimum because I don't want demos to get too involved. And if I have to start using a mouse and feel like my demo has to use a mouse, it's probably got to the more complicated point of view. So yeah, it's all about personal preference. Mouse is something I would take if I was working in an office. I would definitely have a mouse, but it's not necessarily something I would class as my speaker kit. And I would take for presentations necessarily. So yeah, there's variations. Probably if I unpacked my backpack, there'd be a lot more in it than what I class as my presenter kind of kit. But what I've listed tonight is the stuff that I need as a presenter, and anything else is all about additional weight and whether I would benefit from it. So yeah, there's various different things you can think about there, folks. Hopefully this has been useful for you folks. Please do let me know if you've got any other questions. Hit me up. I know there's a bit of a delay between you typing a question and me seeing it and me answering it on the stream, because of the way technology works. But yeah, if you've got any questions, folks, hit me up and let me know. I'd like to help you if I can, sharing my knowledge of being a presenter for the last, as I say, 7 years, and doing a good chunk of those in person as well. So yeah, it's been good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining. I do appreciate all of your support. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if you've enjoyed this video. I really would appreciate it. I am trying to get more involved with my YouTube videos, trying to get more content out, and trying to get a bit more consistent with things. And hopefully the aim is to do a live stream once a month so that we can interact a bit more and we can share some hopefully tips and tricks and answer your questions as well. So yeah, folks, I think the chat has gone a bit quiet. So I've shared everything that I want to share. So I really do appreciate you being here again tonight, as I said. So thank you, folks, and I'll hopefully catch you in another video very soon.